Well, just about everybody has dealt with a problematic neighbor at one time or another. They can be noisy or messy, and if they let their home and property go, it can also affect the value of your home. You might feel like your hands are tied, but they're actually not, believe it or not. We are joined now by Peter Murphy, CEO of Home Encounter, and thanks so much for being with us again, Peter.
My pleasure.
So landowners actually have legal rights to the quiet enjoyment of their home. That's what it says?
Yeah, exactly. The idea of quiet enjoyment is that neighbors or other types of people aren't allowed to interfere with your right to the full use and enjoyment of your home. So if a neighbor causes smells or noises or pollution or virtually any other hazard that you can imagine, and that extends beyond their property boundaries and into your own, they may be infringing on your right to quiet enjoyment.
Oh, what are some of the most common complaints that you see that people actually can do something about? Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's a few. One of the most common complaints that we hear, landscapes. That's when people don't mow their lawn, or they let their lawn die, or their flower beds get overgrown, or their trees lap over onto houses. It's a big deal and very common right now, especially as distressed properties infiltrate the area. Also, physical structures that have deteriorated, they need to be maintained and painted, like paint peeling off of walls or fences or gates falling down. It's a big problem right now. Of course, you can't forget noise disturbances. Those are super significant. That's the music blaring from your neighbors' houses, or the yelling on porches, the partying, the dogs barking, even those uncomfortable domestic disturbances, all included in there. And of course, you got cars on blocks and driveways and giant storage buildings and oil spilled on your driveways. The list goes on and on. One thing that's really significant these days, units that are rented where renters are a violation of your actual homeowners association. Lots of stuff that are really problematic these days.
All right, so what can anybody do about that? What are our legal rights?
Well, traditionally, the way these things worked, and we're realtors, not attorneys, but generally speaking, monetary damages were awarded as a remedy for nuisance, like what we're talking about here. But now we have some really great options that actually can force people to comply with fixing these kind of violations that can be so problematic in the area. But really, we need to step back, because long before you go to court or even consider that as an option, there are some very common sense things that you can do when you see your neighborhood or your neighbor going in the wrong direction. First of all, if you're living in a homeowners association, just talk to the HOA. Report the violation to them, because they've got some really unique enforcement tactics to help get that offender back on track again. They can find that offender. They can place measures that will fix up the property. They can really have a lot of control when you're a deed-restricted community. Second of all, you might want to talk to code enforcement. Code enforcement's got a ton of control these days to really force landowners who aren't taking care of their property to do the right thing and fix up their property, mow the lawn, get rid of the loud and barking dog. Lots of really good options can come, really good defenses can come to your side when you use code enforcement. But really, the most, I think, effective one is take the step to go and talk to your neighbor about the problem that you're dealing with. Your neighbor is a person just like you with wants and needs and desires, and you know, if you come to them in a nice way and talk to them about the problem you're facing, you might find you get a far better reception than you think you will.
And communication is important in all aspects of life. Okay, one last question. What if your neighbor's home is in foreclosure? It's in a horrible state. Not only the grass is grown, but just many ways. Is there anything you can do?
Yeah, there sure are. There sure is. Excuse me. Hillsborough County has a registry of foreclosure properties that they implemented about a year ago because of the rising number of foreclosures in the Bay Area, and other counties are following suit. It's really a great program, because if the property is in foreclosure, the lender is required to register with the county, pay a $100 fee, and then make sure they have an agent responsible for actually maintaining this property and dealing with abuses that might arise. So the responsibility is now being placed at the lender's feet to make sure they're being good neighbors for you, and this will help prevent the decline in values around the Bay Area.
And I know that I see that around the neighborhoods too, so that's very important advice. Thank you so much for joining us once again tonight, Peter.
My pleasure.